Vince Gill, the most adored, pleasant person in country music, may not be that kind behind the scenes. The renowned singer, who is 68, is said to have a private list that is devoid of pals. According to people close to the celebrity, Gill has subtly listed 7 musicians that he finds intolerable. I started sort of aiming for a solo career since I didn't think I had much of a future with that band. Every name on the list, from long-standing adversaries to unexpected betrayals, relates a tale of strained relationships, damaged egos, and drama behind closed doors. Number 4, which shows a feud no one expected coming, really shocks fans. Although he is well known for his soft voice and kind disposition, Gill's unspoken resentments give a completely different impression. There's no doubt that the friendliest person in Nashville may also have the best recall. This is only the beginning, so stay tuned. The 7th is Garth Brooks. Despite dominating the charts in the 1990s, Vince Gill and Garth Brooks were never close partners. Fans praised both artists, but those working behind the scenes saw conflict. Vince, who is renowned for his easygoing style and unadulterated country music, seems uneasy about Garth's meteoric rise to fame. Vince never embraced the pyrotechnics, stadium tours, and high-energy performances that Garth delivered. According to insiders, Vince thought it was all a little too much too soon. In the early 2000s, there were rumors that Garth had asked Vince to perform a major duet, but Vince had discreetly declined. Some claim that principle was at play, not scheduling. One label representative claimed that Vince didn't want to contribute to what he perceived as the commercialization of country music. He apparently thought Garth's style leaned too much into theatrics and preferred substance over show. Their musical values were clearly divided as a result of such rejection. Throughout the years, interviews revealed the philosophical divide. Vince discussed how performance-driven bands were overtaking true country music in a 2005 magazine story. Fans thought it was a veiled jab, even though he never mentioned Garth by name. Many saw Vince's comment at a CMA event around the same time that country music wasn't Broadway with boots as a subtle jab at Garth's ostentatious style. The audience chuckled, but industry insiders understood the message. The contrast between their photographs is startling. While Vince remained rooted in his guitar playing and poignant lyrics, Garth developed his image around large crowds and emotional anthems. Garth's audience welcomed the spectacle, but Vince's admirers valued his genuineness. They never really shared the stage together, which may be explained by their disparities. Even though they were both legendary, their journeys were extremely different. One less well-known incident fuels the conjecture. Garth was there for a 2010 memorial show, but Vince conspicuously did not perform. Given that both artists were planned, it caused some curiosity. Later, a crew member implied that Vince had asked to be pulled at the last minute. Even while it's unclear if it was personal, it strengthened the long-held belief that the two were just not compatible. Fans are still perplexed as to why Vince and Garth never collaborated. Their quiet speaks volumes in a field where teamwork is the norm. Even though Vince has collaborated with Dolly and Carrie Underwood, Garth's name is never mentioned. Vince frequently distanced himself from Garth, both musically and physically. Even when they were performing together at award presentations, fans were aware of that distance. Vince might have appreciated Garth's accomplishments, but not his approach. Not all rivalries are public or noisy. Some are reserved and fundamentally different in their artistic sensibilities. It appears that Garth represented a brand of country music that Vince was unable to endorse. Even though they never insulted one another, there was a genuine gap between them. Additionally, this unstated tension created its own story in a genre that is based on storytelling. While Vince complied with the guidelines, Kristofferson did not. For much too long, the true nature of the relationship between these two icons has stayed unsaid. 6th place, Kris Kristofferson. Vince Gill and Kris Kristofferson hail from somewhat different regions of the country music industry. Kristofferson is frequently referred to as the outlaw poet. His lyrics seem to be taken directly from the heart, and his music has a raw emotional edge. He doesn't give much thought to polish or perfection. Conversely, Vince Gill is nearly the reverse. Clean vocals, faultless guitar skills, and a seamless sound are his top priorities. There was a subtle but genuine friction between the two because of the stark difference between Kristofferson's gritty manner and Vince's refined approach. Although Vince never publicly criticized Kristofferson, those close to both claim that behind closed doors, Vince harbored a certain contempt for Kristofferson's unkempt manner. At times it seems as though Kristofferson wrote his tunes quickly, expressing an emotion without concern for order or organization. Vince likes music with well-planned notes and unambiguous lyrics. Even while Vince appreciated Kristofferson's songwriting ability, this made it difficult for him to appreciate his work completely. They had a courteous but aloof relationship. They didn't hang out or collaborate, although they did meet at events and award shows. Vince appreciated the influence that Kristofferson had on country music, but was frequently irritated by Kristofferson's disregard for the craft's regulations. The rivalry was quiet and private. It was a low-key contest predicated on wildly divergent opinions on the sound and feel of country music. Many individuals are unaware that Vince was irritated by more than just music style. It also focused on Kristofferson's non-musical values. Kristofferson represented disobedience. Fitting into the stereotype of a country star didn't appeal to him, and he rejected the commercial Nashville system. Vince felt that country music should strike a balance between professionalism and originality, even though he was not a staunch traditionalist. Their underlying antagonism was fueled by this divergence in values. For those who wanted country music to be about freedom and real-life challenges, Kristofferson's image as an outlaw made him a hero. Vince embodies the radio-friendly, cleaner side of country music that contributed to its rise in popularity in the 1990s and early 2000s. The conflict between them represents a greater struggle within country music itself, maintaining tradition while attempting to appeal to a wider audience with a more polished sound. In an interview, Vince revealed that while he admires the outlaw movement for pushing limits, he believes some of the rebels went too far in disregarding the fundamentals of good songwriting and musicianship. Even though he didn't mention Kristofferson, that was obviously a shot at his style. Kristofferson's strategy emphasizes emotion and rawness, whereas Vince's focuses on demonstrating technique and control. Their competition also demonstrates the division among country music listeners throughout time. Kristofferson's honesty and tenacity are preferred by some. Others, however, adore Vince's exquisite guitar playing and silky voice. This gap still persists today. Younger musicians frequently choose one style or attempt to combine the two, demonstrating the significance of this contradiction for the genre. The fact that these men had rather diverse influences on other artists is another intriguing aspect. Legendary outlaws like Waylon Jennings and Willie Nelson were motivated by Kristofferson to rebel against Nashville's regulations. Newer artists like Brad Paisley and Keith Urban, who blend excellent musicianship with a contemporary sound, owe their success to Vince. Thus, despite their disagreements, Vince and Kristofferson both made significant contributions to country music. Fifth, Cyrus Billy Ray. Billy Ray Cyrus rose to fame in the country music industry in the early 1990s, thanks to his massive hit song H.E. Breaky Heart. The song immediately became a tremendous hit, launching a line dancing craze that filled dance halls from coast to coast and making Billy Ray a star. Not everyone in the industry was impressed, but fans were dancing to his infectious tune. Among them was Vince Gill. For many fans and musicians of traditional country music, including Vince, H.E. Breaky Heart represented a significant shift. The song's intricate melodic and narrative elements didn't seem to advance country music, it appeared to move it backwards instead. It was undoubtedly catchy, but Vince felt that it was too much of a ploy. He believed that the song sacrificed significance in order to appeal to a large audience, something he had consistently opposed throughout his career. One of the most well-known singers in the genre, Vince Gill is also a multi-instrumentalist. His reputation has been established by his genuine words, poignant melodies, and unquestionable musical ability. He has never been one to follow trends and is more interested in art than fame. When Billy Ray Cyrus appeared wearing tight jeans, big hair and a flamboyant country rock outfit, Vince wasn't really thrilled. He believed Billy Ray was not a true country music musician, but rather a marketing gimmick. Despite being preoccupied with their individual careers in the 1990s, the two musicians never collaborated, and it wasn't a coincidence. According to insiders, despite sharing the same red carpets and award ceremony stages, they were consistently aloof and chilly toward one another. Although courteous, Vince lacked friendliness. He maintained a notable distance and put on a professional attitude. According to many who worked behind the scenes, Vince had a great deal of respect for musicians and was cautious of Billy Ray's pop-focused approach. He simply didn't believe that his level of devotion to the craft was as high as his own. However, it appeared like Billy Ray was more focused on crossover appeal and chart success than on being a multifaceted artist. He wasn't searching for the traditional camp's approval, and Vince wasn't offering it to him either. Their argument revealed a larger struggle inside the country music industry, the conflict between upholding tradition and adjusting to the needs of the market. Broken hearts weren't the only thing that afflicted Vince. It was an indication of a tendency he disliked. A generation of musicians appeared to be influenced by the success of a straightforward, repetitive song to prioritize popularity, image and catchy melodies over narrative. As well as being a skilled musician, Vince feared that instead of preserving the core of country music's roots in genuine feeling and rural authenticity, this would dilute it and make it more like contemporary pop trends. That was a legitimate concern. There were many acts like Billy Ray in the genre in the years following his huge break, notable performers who sang shallow hit tunes. Vince believed that these musicians were capitalizing on the trend that Billy Ray had helped initiate, and he was unhappy with the direction the genre was taking. Even Vince had to concede, though, that Billy Ray had a significant role in the rise in popularity of country music. Younger individuals as well as those from outside the traditional country base became his followers. Even though Vince had numerous issues with the concept of expanding his audience, he was aware that it wasn't always a terrible thing. How it was done was what mattered to him. Quality was more important to him than showmanship. It's intriguing that Billy Ray's impact extended beyond his professional life. Miley Cyrus, his daughter, would go on to become a globally renowned music sensation. In the process, she gave the country music industry even more pop, particularly when she was just starting out as Hannah Montana. The distinction between pop and country music became even more hazy thanks to the Cyrus family. However, Vince has never discussed Miley's impact directly. From H.E. Breaky Heart to contemporary country pop mixes, Vince viewed the entire narrative as a conflict within the genre. Seeing country music get increasingly commercialized was not only disheartening, but it also resonated deeply with someone who has dedicated his life to preserving its integrity. Billy Ray Cyrus was added to Vince Gill's not-so-secret list for this reason. Shania Twain was never honored by Vince Gill. More stunning than any headline she has ever produced is What's Behind the Silence. Shania Twain comes in at number 4. Shania Twain transformed the country music landscape rather than merely entering it. Known as the Queen of Country Pop, Shania created a new high-energy style that transcended genre boundaries by fusing popular pop with classic country sounds. Her polished, radio-friendly successes contributed to the globalization of country music. However, some people who like things the way they were, like Vince Gill, lost out on her success. He believed that the honesty that defined authentic country music was distinct from Shania's success. A broad spectrum of music lovers found Shania's albums, particularly Come On Over, to be easily palatable. The pop-style hooks in her songs were catchy. They sounded fantastic on both country and top 40 radio stations thanks to their danceable rhythms and dazzling production. Traditional country musicians were dissatisfied because they believed that country music was losing its authenticity, while millions of new fans were attracted to the genre. Vince Gill was one of them. Vince Gill has always complied with regulations. His unrivaled musical talent, heartfelt melodies, and honest lyrics helped him establish himself. Vince is the type of performer who believes that stories that are honest, unvarnished, and deeply rooted can be told through country music. He plays a variety of instruments well and has a lovely voice. It's not about making singles with popular sounds that reach the top of the charts or about glamour and glamour. According to Vince, it's a story portrayed via words and song about truth, life, grief, love, and overcoming. People said things like, "I feel like a woman, and that doesn't impress me much." When Shania Twain debuted with her huge hair, glittery clothes, and pop-heavy songs, her music was very catchy and well-produced. but Vince felt it was too smooth and courteous. With her success, Shania's image shifted from one of sobbing ballads and filthy boots to one of brightness, joy, and marketability. No one else ever noticed or made a big deal out of Vince and Shania's friction. There were no irate interviews or news-grabbing insults. Instead, the rift manifested itself in subtler ways. Shania and Vince never collaborated. In interviews, he never mentioned how her albums were praised at award shows or how she topped the charts. That quiet meant a lot in the nation's close-knit community. Being impolite wasn't the point. It had to do with ethics. Although Vince was impressed with Shania's achievements, he disagreed with the direction she was taking her music. Her work, in his opinion, demonstrated how the genre was evolving for financial gain rather than for creative advancement. He believed that as country music grew more glossy and bubblegum-like, it gradually lost its uniqueness. Vince believed that country music should portray real life in all its lovely complexity rather than attempting to emulate mainstream trends. It was more difficult for other musicians, particularly women, because of Shania's success. By demonstrating that they could dominate the charts, head global tours, and alter perceptions of the genre, she dismantled obstacles for female singers. Vince, however, was a fairly conventional person. As a result, he frequently overlooked or failed to adequately acknowledge musicians who adopted her pop-inspired style. As a result, female vocalists who didn't conform to the norm occasionally struggled to gain respect in settings where Vince's viewpoint was important. The corporate world was slightly but noticeably impacted by this. Women like Kelsea Ballerini, Taylor Swift, and Carrie Underwood were able to achieve fame thanks to Shania. Despite their preference for mainstream music, these women were classified as country. However, musicians who shared Vince's beliefs, such as Patty Loveless and Leanne Womack, frequently received less audience support but greater critical acclaim. The distinction between creative sincerity and financial gain was becoming more obvious. Despite their differences, Shania Twain and Vince Gill both influenced contemporary country music. Shania provided glitz, vitality, and a large number of new admirers. Vince's devotion and honesty preserved the genre's essence. They represented two extremes of the country music spectrum and two possible directions for the genre. Although they never collaborated, their individual efforts demonstrated the evolution of country music. Today's country music continues to balance being both deeply layered and easily understood. The friction between Vince and Shania has persisted. Only the names and sounds have changed. However, this tension stems from a hidden rivalry between a purist storyteller and a pop country queen. Third, Aldean, Jason. Many people refer to Jason Aldean as the face of bro country, a sound that blends trucks, party themes, country music, and a carefree attitude. With loud guitars and infectious beats, his songs typically center on having fun, partying, and living in a small town. He gained a lot of popularity because to this approach, particularly with younger listeners who appreciate the upbeat party vibe his music produces. This strategy, however, differs greatly with Vince Gill's values. According to Vince, meaningful lyrics, in-depth songwriting, and relatable storytelling are all important components of country music. Songwriting skill has always been important to Vince Gill. According to him, each song must honestly and passionately communicate a tale. He believes that true emotion and depth should be incorporated into lyrics. According to Vince, Aldean's music falls short of such expectations because of its recurring themes and straightforward language. He thinks Aldean's mannerisms are loud and superficial, concentrated less on the craft of songwriting and more on image and lifestyle marketing. As a result, the two musicians and what they stand for in country music are clearly separated. Vince Gill subtly declines to go to gatherings or award shows that prominently highlight Jason Aldean as a result of these disagreements. Direct insults and public drama are not the point of this. It's an individual decision that reveals Vince's allegiances. In contrast to songs that rule the airwaves due to their catchiness and marketability, he wants to support and promote country music that respects tradition and songwriting. The conflict between traditional country values and contemporary marketed trends is aptly illustrated by this silent boycott. Country music adopted a new, more commercial tone thanks in part to Jason Aldean's success. He sells a lot of albums, and big crowds attend his gigs. His upbeat style and relatable party anthems are adored by many admirers. However, Vince believes that this change poses a threat to the essence of country music. Vince sees music as more than just marketing or entertainment. It's about maintaining the genre's foundations and storytelling customs. This Rivalries' reflection of a broader change in country music culture is an intriguing observation. Aldean's bro-country sound caters to a way of life and persona that occasionally makes it difficult to distinguish between pop and country culture. Although this approach is popular and attracts new listeners, it may turn off devoted followers who like nuance and tradition. The continuous argument over whether country music should be a storytelling art form or a commercial product is highlighted by Vince Gill's refusal to take part in that environment. Despite their disagreements, Jason Aldean and Vince Gill have both had a significant influence on country music. Aldean's approach brought country music into the mainstream of popular culture and opened up new avenues and audiences. By encouraging composers to concentrate on craft and emotional reality, Vince's method preserves the traditions. Their subdued antagonism illustrates the conflict between tradition and innovation, a narrative that still shapes country music today. Kanye West is number 2. Despite not being a country musician, Kanye West's name nevertheless comes up when discussing music that prioritizes attention over nuance. Kanye, who is well known for his extravagant declarations, fashion presentations, and outrageous public conduct, epitomizes a musical movement fueled by spectacle and ego. Although his albums push limits, they frequently come across as more instruments for personal branding, rather than sincere words. According to Vince Gill, the essence of music is undermined by this contemporary musical trend in which musicians create empires based on self-worship. Although he has never specifically mentioned Kanye, it is obvious that he is one of the people he criticizes in his critique of today's celebrities. According to Vince, music should be about connecting rather than controlling. Vince takes a more subdued approach, whereas Kanye leverages his celebrity to control headlines and draw attention to himself. He uses passion rather than controversy when he speaks. According to Vince, the foundation of great music is humility, the readiness to be tiny in order for the song to be large. He believes that Kanye's overt self-glorification is a dangerous trend that transforms musicians from storytellers into untouchable icons. Values are at the center of the conflict, not merely genre. Although Vince and Kanye have completely different musical backgrounds, their messages couldn't be more diametrically opposed. Kanye creates mayhem to promote his music. Vince shares meaning via evoking emotion. Vince views narcissism as a death sentence for authenticity, whereas Kanye embraces it as performance art. Their methods reveal a larger cultural conflict between showmanship and soul, despite the fact that they may never meet. Kanye's style of music embodies all of Vince's cautions in many respects: dazzling production, lyrics that emphasize individual strength, and a following that values charisma more than music. Vince urges a return to music that appeals to the emotions rather than the ego. He prefers music that listens to him rather than music that yells. For this reason, Vince and other musicians like him should be wary of artists like Kanye, who have made the stage into a shrine for themselves. Vince Gill could have easily followed trends, sought influence, and made headlines over the years. However, he chose the calm route instead. He wouldn't sacrifice his morals for the sake of being popular. He may have lost out on younger listeners or larger radio hits as a result of this choice, but he gained the utmost respect from people who genuinely care about the history of country music. Influence was not something Vince sought, his ethics gave him a legacy. His lack of response to the development of the contemporary nation is more powerful than any protest. He refrained from publicly criticizing Shania Twain, Jason Aldean, or Billy Ray Cyrus. However, his lack of participation in their festivities conveyed a powerful message. Vince views attendance as a sign of support. Therefore, his refusal to share praise or attend an event is not an accident, rather it is deliberate. Furthermore, his modest demeanor betrays his true feelings in a field where stillness is uncommon. Today's severe divisions in country music are a reflection of a larger issue. The conflict is between sensation and flash, renown and heart, soul and branding. Vince Gill is on one side of that spectrum, prioritizing songwriting, emotion and dignity over entertainment. By doing this, he stands for a segment of the genre that is becoming less prevalent but is still very much needed. He is protecting the meaning of music, not only clinging to tradition. Vince Gill avoids getting involved in internet arguments, lecturing and complaining. He instead focuses on his strengths, which include penning sincere songs, performing with passion, and quietly advocating for excellence. His serene presence serves as a reminder of the original meaning of music in a world full of self-promotion. He is more than just a painter. He serves as a benchmark, reflecting the extent of the genre's deviation. Travis Tritt responded to Vince's jabs at phony outlaws with a glare so icy it froze the room. First place. Tritt Travis. Despite having somewhat different attitudes, Travis Tritt and Vince Gill both became well known in the 1990s. Travis contributed a raw, boisterous energy that seemed erratic and untamed. Conversely, Vince maintained composure and concentration, elegant and conventional design. How they were perceived in the industry was influenced by their distinct personalities and musical styles. Even before there were allegations of strife, this disparity caused tension in their relationship. In 1997, there was a significant behind-the-scenes incident at a benefit event. According to reports, Vince casually mentioned musicians who perform outlaw but lack the ability to write lyrics. Travis, who based his reputation on the outlaw country mentality, was offended by those remarks. Insiders claim that after Travis heard Vince's comments, he confronted him. Although there was no physical altercation, witnesses claim Travis gave Vince a deadly look. The genuine conflict between their egos and values was brought to light by that dramatic moment. Seldom do their fans and music coincide, which largely concealed their rivalry from the public. Vince's admirers valued his poignant writings and mellow melodies. Fans were drawn to Travis because of his rebellious persona and gritty music. Their paths rarely crossed on the charts or on concert stages as a result of this divide. Additionally, because their worlds were so dissimilar, any possible friendship seemed improbable. Vince and Travis never discussed their conflict in public. In contrast to other well-known country music feuds, there was no public ceasefire, no handshake, and no indication that things were getting warmer over time. Under the surface, fans frequently question whether the rivalry still exists. Both men pursued their careers independently, adhering to their own audiences and styles. Their silence has been incorporated into the narrative. The way that this altercation represented a wider conflict in 90s country music is a novel perspective. Tradition versus disobedience. Vince embodied the refined vintage country sound that many people wish to keep alive. Travis pushed limits and embraced the gritty, rebellious vibe that drew him younger followers. In addition to being personal, their conflict represented a larger gap within the genre. Both performers' legacies were impacted by this invisible conflict, which also influenced the development of country music throughout that decade. In the realm of country music, Vince Gill is well known for his grace, modesty, and kindness. Many people are therefore surprised to learn about reports of silent conflicts and resentments surrounding him. Some claim that Vince's perfectionism is the cause. He has a reputation for working hard and having high standards for both himself and other people. He frequently clashed with artists who had a more untamed or unfettered approach because of his pursuit of perfection. Vince never made an effort to command attention. While others sought attention, he preferred to let his music speak for itself. Vince tended to retreat rather than confront directly when powerful personalities conflicted with his cool-headed, laser-like style. Behind the scenes, these tensions were extremely serious, but they hardly ever made the news. He occasionally found it difficult to relate to some major celebrities who followed other norms because of his high standards. In Nashville's close-knit music circles, Vince felt a peculiar sense of loneliness as a result of this silent rivalry. Although his talent and kindness are appreciated, his desire for perfection occasionally caused barriers. Fans and the media hardly ever see this side of Vince, according to people close to the scene. It explains why some rivalries smolder for years under the surface instead of blowing up. Gaining insight into this secret aspect of Vince Gill's personality helps to clarify his complex nature. According to reports, Vince Gill maintains a private composition journal that contains more than simply lyrics. According to an insider, this journal has a confidential list of artists Vince declines to work with. According to a roadie, Vince wrote a hard no next to some names. A Nashville assistant once noticed pages with prominent names marked out in ink, despite the fact that the list has never been made public. Although it's unclear if this was a joke or a genuine hate, it reveals a side of Vince that not many people are aware of. The idea that Vince is the nicest guy in country music is called into question by this private list. He seems to have no trouble defining boundaries at the age of 68. According to rumors, he won't collaborate with 7 musicians, and some of the rivalries on the list are startling. For both insiders and fans, one name in particular sticks out. The covert conflicts that influence Vince's career are exposed in this book of buried grudges, far from the public's perception of a kind face. Thank you for viewing. Please remember to like, share and subscribe if you liked this video. For even more incredible information, click on the next video that appears on your screen.